country. God is good all the time. Well, today I'm going to show you how you can make your own hot cold pack for sore muscles, joints, or even just for warming up your feet in the bed on those really cold nights. So let's get to it. Now what I have here is I have a lady that wanted me to make several packs for her, one in a large size and 3 smaller ones. And here's what the smaller ones look like. And what I used in these is a blend of mostly white rice with some flaxseed. Now, you can choose to make this entirely with flaxseed. It's going to be more expensive to do it that way. However, you're not going to get that kind of grainy smell that you get when you heat up the pack from the flaxseed. And plus the flaxseed, from what I understand, does actually hold heat better. Now, I've never actually made one with flaxseed, so this is kind of new, even just adding it into the blend. I've always just used rice. And another option is to add in, I'm going to go ahead and make this blend right in front of you. This is going to be for my own personal use. I had suggested it to her, but she just wanted the rice. She didn't want anything fancy in it. So I'm going to add in some flaxseed, put in a little bit more. So I might make a couple of these like this because I'm sort of liking this. Normally I've just made it using old socks, but I'm liking the idea of having something a little fancier. Now what I have here is some Now Foods ylang ylang. I'm going to put in a few drops of that and a little bit of lavender. And what this is going to do is this is going to just give it a real nice scent, especially when it's heated. That will be very calming and relaxing. And also lavender is good at releasing tension and you know, it's a good pain reliever. It was one of the first things I started using as a you know, aromatically as a pain reliever. I'd put a little under my nose and rub into my temples, and it worked really good for headaches. So this is the blend I'll be adding. However, one more thing that you can do is you can add some herbs. So I really wanted to do this, and you can just take some lavender flowers. Since I still have these on the stem, I'm just gonna roll it like this to break the little petals off of there. And pick out the stems. I don't want the stems in this. I might use it in my tinctures and stuff, but I don't want it in my pack. And the reason I don't want the stems in there is they're kind of pokey and sharp. Well, not very sharp, they're just kind of pokey, and so I'm not going to want those in my rice pack. Other options for oils and herbs would be like rosemary or sage, even peppermint, depending on what you're looking for. So that's what I'll use in mine when I make it, which I probably won't do today. I'm just going to set that aside. So what I have here is just a basic cotton, 100% cotton batik fabric that I thought was just very pretty. And she wanted one side to be very soft and fuzzy. Now one option would be, if you're wanting to go all natural and organic, is to get this organic bamboo fleece. It comes in quite a few colors. It's nice and soft. And it's organic and bamboo, so this would be the part you'd want against your skin, you know, if you're concerned about having something that's, you know, 100% natural and organic. However, she really wanted this very, very soft and fuzzy, and so this is an old, or well, it's not old, it's actually brand new, never used, but we picked up a bunch of these very soft, fleecy blankets at the store, and they were only like $7 for these little, you know, lap blankets. So what I'm doing is I'm using this as the fabric for the backing, and you can see, you know, that's what I did here. And this bigger one is, she wanted this in a 12 by 16 size. So what I want to do is I want to make sure I have at least an extra inch of fabric to work with, because I want my seams to be at least a ½ inch wide, maybe even wider, because of what I'm doing here. So I'm looking at this, I could take a little bit off that, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave that a little more than that. So it's about an extra 1.5 inches wider, so I need this to go another. Okay, that actually looks good. That gives me plenty to work with. So I'm going to use this as my guide, and I'm going to cut out another piece of this, and I want the fuzziest side, which is this side, on the outside. So it's got to go on the inside of what I'm sewing. So anyway, I'm just cutting this fleece. Now be careful if you're working with this kind of, if it's a stretchy fabric right like this, make sure you're not stretching it as you go. That's what is a bit tricky about working with this particular fabric, is that it stretches as you're sewing it, so you got to work real careful. Make sure, for this I will be using pins because of that. Alright, I want to sew this from one of these narrow ends around and back to the other narrow end. This is going to be my open end here. So I'm going to pin this real good all the way around, and that is to help keep it from stretching too much as I'm sewing. You can use 100% cotton flannel. That would also be a really nice choice. You could use that on both sides if you don't want it as fuzzy as that. Other options, and I've actually done this before because I have made one this big for us before in the past. And what I did was I just made one like this, and it was just very simple. And then I filled it up with the rice, and then I made another piece to go over the top of it like a pillowcase. That way I could take that piece off and wash it, because you're not going to be able to just wash this, you know, because of the grains inside, obviously. Now, I'm going to go take you in there and sew that, but I wanted to discuss some other ideas for grains. So you don't have to use rice. You can use beans, you can use dried corn, you can use lentils. Lentils would be nice because they're real small. Brown rice, whatever kind you want. Just consider what it is you're using. If you don't want it to go rancid, if you don't think you're going to like the smell of it when it's heated up. But of course, adding some essential oils is going to help with that. It can be whatever you want. I like to use rice because it's the most cost-effective one. Just a cheap rice, nothing fancy. So anyway, I will take you in the other room and we will get to sewing. I'm starting from this one corner. I'm going to leave this whole top piece open. And what I'm going to do, and this is where I want to have that nice, fairly wide seam, is I'm going to start with a straight stitch, but a nice tight straight stitch all the way around, because you got to consider the weight of what you're working with here. So locking my stitch down and being careful. I'm not going to sew very fast on this because I want to make sure as I'm going along I am not stretching the bottom fabric out, the stretchy stuff. And I find it's best to keep the non-stretchy fabric on the top. Now, when I get to my corner, I like to lock the stitch down that way, because your corners are going to always tend to take a little bit more stress. And then I'm going to lock it down again when I come this way, just to add a little more security to that. Okay, now that I have the straight stitch down, again, because of the weight of this, I'm going to go back over it. I don't need to have it quite so tight, but I'm going to go back over this seam. This is why I'm leaving it wide, with a zigzag stitch all the way around.
Near Banbridge Town in the county down one morning.
All right, so now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and turn it. You can cut your corners. This will make for better, you know, when you turn it, you don't have the little weird rounded corners so much. That's just up to you. You can also cut it this way, make little inserts towards the corner. What you'll find with this is that no matter how you cut that back part, if it's stretchy, it's going to seem to be, once it's full, a little bigger than this side, because it's naturally going to stretch with the rice or whatever grain or seed that you choose to use. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to make 3 chambers on this. I was initially going to go this way with it, but for the sake of the way I gotta fill it, and I don't want this part to be too, you know, the part where I have to fill it to be really wide, I'm gonna go do the chambers this way. Now, if it were up to me, I wouldn't add the chambers to mine because I like being able to situate the rice however I want. Sometimes I'm gonna want it totally flat, sometimes I'm gonna want it higher in one side and not the other. It just depends on how I'm using it in something this big. But you may wanna add these chambers. Okay, so this, I tri-folded it to give me an idea where I want this to be. So I'm going to pin, I'm using the pins as markers more than anything. Make sure that's laying flat to just let me know where I need to stitch this down at. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the already stitched end. I want to make sure, I'm going to have this on about a medium tightness for stitch. It doesn't need to be quite as tight. Lock down my stitch here. This might be a little tricky trying to keep this straight. Now, if I was just using 100% cotton on both sides, that just wouldn't be an issue. It's this stretchy fabric makes it a little bit more difficult to work with and to keep it straight. Now, I want to leave some for folding down here. Once I get it filled. Ouch. And I see my stitch is still a little off kilter. So I probably may even want to use a chalk marker to keep you lined up. Okay, so now we're going to go back in the other room and I'm going to fill these chambers. I'll start by putting about, because I have quite a few cups of stuff here. I'm going to put 3 cups in each chamber to start with. Right there we got 12 cups. Actually, that's pretty good. So I have a lot of extra here. Let's see how this is turning out. So 12. Okay, 16 inches would be right there. So I've got quite a bit for my seam. I think I'll go ahead and put the rest of that in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and fold these edges over. I think I'll take these stitches out just a little bit more so I can fold it over farther. And then I'll take you in the other room and we'll sew that up. I did take some of these stitches out, made sure everything was good and straight, and then now I'm folding this in to make my hem. Now, if you saw my cloth napkins video, you'll see with anything like that and pillows and stuff, you're gonna just wanna make a really close to the edge straight stitch so it's as hidden as possible. However, because of the nature of this thing, the weight and the size, I'm not going to do that. It may not turn out as pretty looking, however, I want to make sure this is very secure. So I'm going to put a very tight zigzag stitch all the way down this thing. And it's going to be a little tricky. And I would suggest that you actually pin it instead of doing what I'm doing. And I'm going to go nice and slow because if I try to do this too fast, my fabric's going to stretch on me and be all wonky. Don't want wonky. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish these stitches down. But I am, for the sake of making sure this is secure, I'm going to go ahead and stitch right over the top of this again. You want to make sure you go from end to end, that there's no openings, otherwise you're going to lose your, especially if you're using rice or flaxseed, something that's smaller like that, you don't want it leaking out the ends. Okay, make sure my rice and all that stays down there. Okay, and now I'm gonna put this back in here. Trying to figure out which way would be the best way to go. Thinking this way, so I can stitch. Put a straight stitch in here to finish closing these off to keep these chambers separate. Locking the stitch down on each end. Okay, so there's my big rice pack. It's all done. My stitch isn't as straight as I hoped it would be, nor is this as even as I hoped it would be as far as filling, which it can be a little tricky doing that. But this should still, it's pretty good, and it's got a nice weight to it. All right, so here's the thing about the rice or grain pack or flaxseed pack, whatever it is that you're gonna use, is that when it comes to heating these up, it really is best to use a microwave. It really does work best. We've tried heating this on our wood stove, and we can get it good and hot, but for some reason it doesn't retain the heat as well. And my guess is because it makes it a dry heat. Whereas when you heat it in the microwave, it's a moist heat, which is really what you want if you're using it for sore muscles and joints, is a moist heat. And it retains the heat literally for hours. We like to heat these up in the winter time when the bed is just freezing cold, because we don't heat our bedroom. And we put these at the foot of the bed, and they make a really wonderful foot warmer. And I tell you, if your feet are warm, the rest of you is warm. And it's like for the smaller ones, put it in your microwave for about 30 seconds at a time. Take it out and squish it around. This is why I don't really like having the chambers, because I like making it easy to mix it, or another reason why, to mix it around and really disperse that heat, and keep going like 30 seconds at a time. With the bigger one, you could probably, and it's going to depend on your microwave, go up to 2 minutes at a time. At least for the first one. Your first one's going to be a little bit longer. You do not want to go the full length all at once, because you're going to burn your rice and then it's going to get stinky. So you just go, I would say 1 to 2 minutes, depending on how big this is and how full you have it. And then you're going to mix it around really good, squish it, mix it, get that heat dispersed, and put it back in there for another minute. Do it again, put it back in there for another 30 seconds, and keep doing that until you get it as hot as you want it. Now, the other option, which I've never actually tried this, and I don't know why, but I think with this, I'm gonna probably make a couple of small ones and just keep them in my freezer. And you can also use these as basically an ice pack, and just keep it in your freezer. The only thing I'd be concerned about that is you may want to put it in, make sure you put it in a plastic bag when you freeze it. It's probably going to develop a little bit too much moisture. I don't know, it's just a guess. I've never tried it, but then again, with the microwave you are getting a moist heat. But I've used the same rice packs over and over and over again, and haven't had issues with the rice getting moldy or anything like that, because you would know, because it would get real stinky. So anyway, and you just put them on like would be good for the back of your neck, wherever you need it, like I said, on your feet, your hands, and then the bigger one would go all the way, it would cover your whole back. Anyway, so that's my project for today. Hope you enjoyed this video and that maybe you learned something new. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.